Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to a special episode where we break down how artificial intelligence appears in robot vacuums and why it's there. AI can show up in many different levels of a robot, which combine to make up the robot's autonomy stack. That's the layers of technology that work together to let the robot do its job. We're going to go up the stack one level at a time, explaining the role that AI plays in each one, until we finally get to the level that most of us probably think of when we hear AI. First, let's start off by talking about how a robot vacuum works without the help of AI. A non-AI robot uses if-then scripts to trigger robotic responses based on sensor input. For example, with a bump sensor, this functions kind of like a light switch. If bump, then turn. If no bump, then drive straight. Cliff sensors make the robot turn away from staircases. Carpet sensors make it increase suction. And bump sensors make the robot turn. These behaviors can be pretty sophisticated, like iRobot's dirt detect acoustic sensors, which pick up vibrations from heavy debris to trigger extra cleaning. This is all hard-coded, which means it's written into the software and it won't change unless the software is rewritten. This is the way that robot vacuums worked for a long time, and many economy models use a lot of these technologies. Now, let's see how the introduction of AI changes things, beginning with the first level. Level 1 starts at the sensors, and I'll call this the perception layer. Modern robots have all kinds of sensors on them. Some of them are for sensing larger environments, as in LiDAR or V-SLAM navigation. These detect large or longer range objects, like the walls of a room. Other sensors, like 3D structured light or cameras, are for detecting much smaller objects for obstacle avoidance. A robot with pre-scripted responses will behave automatically to sensor input. A robot with AI, however, is able to actually interpret the sensor data using convolutional neural networks, or CNNs. These neural networks are extremely complex, and they have three main parts. First is the robot's training data, which are called weights and are expressed as grids of numbers. Then there's the flash memory, or library of the training data that is stored in the robot. And last is the NPU, or Neural Processing Unit, which is the physical chip where it all comes together for the robot to use its training library to interpret the sensor inputs. You can compare a robot that uses a CNN and a robot that doesn't with something like Roborock's reactive tech obstacle avoidance versus the reactive AI system. If the reactive tech system detects an obstacle, it doesn't know what it is, and it reacts with a coded response. If the reactive AI system detects an obstacle, it does know what it is. Rather, it makes an educated guess, triggering different reactions depending on whether it was a cat or a sock. Because all of the robot's training data would be incredibly draining to process in its complete form, the data is stripped down to its barest essentials on a robot vacuum, so that its computation work is relatively lightweight. But the next step for this technology is coming out in the form of VLMs, or visual language models. We are really curious to see this in action on robots like the Narwhal Flow 2. Not only will the Flow 2 be able to use its CNN locally to identify an object, but it can also access a cloud server-based VLM to help it identify anything that's outside of the robot's training, creating a virtually limitless ability to identify things. Level 1 in the robot stack is pretty great, but we haven't done anything except recognize the object. To understand where that object is in the bigger picture of your home, we have to move to Level 2, the mapping layer. Level 2 AI is responsible for mapping and navigating, where all of the stuff the sensors picked up can turn into knowledge for the robot. This is the part where the robot is able to read its environment, figure out where it is on the map, and decide where to go next. Non-AI robots are also able to do this as far as creating a map and figuring out where they are on it, but they do this only by logging large geometric shapes that don't have any real meaning. But a robot with AI will be able to understand things about its environment that a non-AI robot wouldn't. This is called semantic mapping, which means that the robot can establish context on its own and perform its own reasoning about it. An AI-equipped robot can see a bed when mapping and know that it's in the bedroom, or see a table and know it's in the dining room. It doesn't do this perfectly, but each generation gets better at it. And when the robot has a semantic understanding of the world around it, it can adjust its behaviors to fit the environment, which brings us to Level 3, the action level. Level 3 is where the rubber meets the road, where all of that sensing and reasoning turns into a physical response. In a non-AI robot, a behavior is either turned on or off based on which switch was activated. Maybe it's increasing its suction on carpet or turning around when it hits a wall, but it has limited behaviors for limited situations. But when equipped with AI, the robot's responses can expand, and so can its hardware. If the robot's sensors recognize a pet walking by, the action level is what makes the robot pause, turn a little, and even turn down its suction to avoid startling the pet, depending on the model, of course. Or maybe the sensors tell the map that a room is carpeted. The action level is what makes the robot physically lift the mopping pads so they don't wet the carpet, or even leave the mop pads in the dock, like we see in some dreamy models. AI-powered robots are often equipped with some kind of proprietary AI cleaning mode, like the Clean Genius feature in DreamyBots, or the Smart Plan on Roborock. This mode causes a robot to clean the way it thinks is best, based on what it knows about your home. One example would be that a kitchen or a bathroom might be mopped twice because they're more likely to have spills than other rooms, with the mop getting cleaned after the bathroom in order to prevent cross-contamination. Or a high traffic area rug might get multiple passes because it probably has higher dirt levels. These behaviors could be customized into the app for some robots, but they can't happen automatically without the addition of AI. And the other possibilities that are being unlocked by this are really interesting. Robots with arms, like the Roborock Saros Z70, and the stair-climbing robots and modules that are preparing to come to market would not be possible without AI. The last layer of AI in the robot vacuum stack that we're going to cover is the interaction layer. Because of the way that many of us experience AI in our daily lives, this one is probably the most familiar to us, and it's likely what most of us are thinking when we hear a robot has AI. This is the expanding ability for natural language processing that we're seeing on some robot vacuums. Natural language processing, or NLP, is how a computer understands human speech. So, if you've ever answered yes or no to a robotic voice prompt on a call menu, then you've interacted with an NLP. Almost all robot vacuums these days can be integrated with third-party smart home voice services, while some high-end models have built-in voice assistants. Both of these respond to verbal cues for convenience, but you have to give the commands in a very precise way or the robot won't understand. But Samsung is marketing some major breakthroughs in this area with its new smart home ecosystem. And we are seeing real advances in onboard voice agents like in Ecovac's Yico GPT. These robots are able to access the large language models that we're familiar with from modern chatbots in order to make inferences and find patterns so that it can understand what you want. So the hope is that you could tell a robot that has a model like this, go clean the mess in front of the stove, and the robot will be able to infer that the stove is in the kitchen by accessing its knowledge of your house from the map. Then it would be able to drive itself to the kitchen, find the mess, and clean it, putting together every level of the autonomy stack that we have covered. There are signs of a future with more agentic robot vacuums, which would require less programming inside of a smartphone app and could handle more complex or multi-step tasks. Some brands like SwitchBot are beginning to imagine this kind of AI home robot as becoming more like home assistants, both with and without vacuum bases. Of course, these new technologies come with some considerations around privacy and security, but we'll have to save that topic for another episode. If you found this video helpful, you can check out our website for news about robot vacuums, as well as buyer's guides and our top 20 robot vacuum list. We have specialized recommendations for features like obstacle avoidance, and we also rank our top picks based on price point. Don't forget to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you go. Thanks for watching.
Vacuum Wars independently tests new vacuums year-round, and the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our latest top picks across multiple categories. You'll also find detailed rankings on the Vacuum Wars website, including our top 20 robot vacuums, top cordless vacuums, and more. Every review here is unsponsored, just honest results. Subscribe so you never miss one, and tap the next video to keep watching.